Welcome to Unleash the Awesome with Dave Gambrill. All of us have unique skills, talents, and abilities that aren't being used to their full potential. Our mission is to share the people, tools, apps, and other resources that will help you unleash your awesome on the world.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Unleash the Awesome. My name is Dave Gambrill, and today I wanted to talk to you about the curse of knowledge, the dreaded curse of knowledge. But before we get into that, I want to share with you a tool that I think will help you power through this. It's from my friend Russell Brunson and his team over at ClickFunnels. It's called the One Funnel Away Challenge. It's a 30-day training and coaching program that will help you unleash your awesome. It'll help you figure out what those skills, talents, and abilities are that you should be sharing with the world, and frankly, making a huge impact and probably profiting handsomely in the process, although we're not going to make income claims here, but it will at least help you identify what those things are you could be sharing with your audience, and then it shows you specifically how to package those things up and sell them online in a way that will help you have success. So again, it's called the One Funnel Away Challenge. If you just go to gambrill.com/OFA, yes, that's my affiliate link, because when you use my affiliate link, it's only $100 for you. Again, it's gambrill.com/OFA for the One Funnel Away Challenge. Okay, let's get into the curse of knowledge. What the heck is the curse of knowledge? Many of us know things, okay? We've gone through life, we've had experiences where we have a great wealth of information, we have knowledge, we have talents, we have things that we can do. And so somebody comes along and says to you, hey, you know what, you should teach that, or you should create a course on that, or you should coach that, or whatever the case may be. I know many of you that listen to me or have found me, you're speakers, trainers, coaches, consultants, educators, things like that. And I think that a lot of you get into this situation where you are told to share your knowledge with the world, and you have this thing we call the curse of knowledge, where you say to yourself, oh, everybody knows that. Doesn't everybody know how to do that? That would be dumb. I shouldn't share that. Or the most insidious one, which is, who am I to think that I should be sharing that? Okay, because what happens is we know this thing, we do this thing, it becomes so easy to us. If you heard one of my previous episodes on the 4 phases of learning, I talked about unconscious competence, meaning we're so good at something we don't even need to think about it. So if you're unconsciously competent at something, generally when somebody says you should teach that or you should show that, your first thought is, man, that's so easy. Doesn't everybody know that? And to compound that problem, what usually happens is you look around in your peer group, you look around in your sphere of influence, you look around on your Facebook feed or on your Instagram feed, and you see other people doing the same thing, and you say, well, they're doing it, and then you just assume that everybody's doing it, and then you say to yourself, there's really no reason for me to share this. But I would like to remind you that in your social circles, there's a couple hundred people max. Maybe you have that infamous 5,000 person limit on Facebook. Maybe you've reached that. But the reality is there's only a couple hundred people that are in your peer group, in your sphere of influence, at least closely. And so if you are a speaker, trainer, coach, consultant, somebody like that, you probably have other people that have similar skill sets. And so when you look around, you see that other people in your sphere of influence can do those things, or they know those things. But I'm here to remind you of this. Last I checked, there's about 7.5 billion people in the world, with a B, billion with a B. And the latest data suggests that anywhere from 3.5 to 4 billion of those people currently in 2020 have access to the internet. Okay, so remember, the people that are in your immediate sphere of influence are probably not your ideal customer avatar. They're not your ideal customer persona. And so, yeah, there's probably a lot of people in the world who need to hear what you have to say. And to compound it even more, if you grew up like I did in a school system that basically said to you, sit down, shut up, don't speak until you're acknowledged by raising your hands, and then, play small, go get some very specific knowledge at a college or institution of higher learning, go get a job at a company that will take care of you for your entire life, and you live happily ever after. The reality is that that's not happening anymore, at least the last part of that. There's no companies where people are working there for their entire career. They're certainly not taking care of you forever. And so I think we need to interrupt that pattern of how we go about and be successful as well. And one of those things is helping you unleash your awesome. That's what this whole podcast is about. So if you find yourself in a situation where you are thinking, doesn't everyone know that? Or that's so easy. Why would I teach that? Those are precisely the things that you should probably be sharing with the world. Now, it might take you a little bit of effort to put a framework around it and to package it and to put it in a course or put it in an email sequence that you send out or whatever the case may be. And that's why I mentioned the One Funnel Away Challenge at the beginning of this podcast, is because all you really need to figure out is how to package that stuff in a way that it's easy for people to buy, it's easy for people to consume, and as you publish that stuff, you start to be known as an expert or an authority in that space. But you'll never become an expert or an authority in that space if you don't ever start, if you ever don't put it out there. And I'll talk about in the next episode something else that sometimes gets in the way of this, the confidence-competence loop. We'll talk about that and how to avoid that and leverage it actually for your benefit. But in this episode, I wanted to concentrate on the curse of knowledge. I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to tell you a little story, okay? It's a little story time. Those of you that are like, hey man, I just listened to your podcast for the information time's over. You can turn it off now if you want. But if you want a story that helps support the information, keep listening. So I was doing, this was about 9 or 10 years ago. I was doing a course from James Wedmore. Okay, so many of you know James now, but back in the day, he got his start doing, he was a bartender, and then he started doing videos on YouTube showing bartenders how to make drinks and have more flourishes and be more entertaining as a bartender. So basically he did courses on how to be a more successful bartender. And then he created courses on how to leverage the power of YouTube because he was doing it successfully, and so on and so on. So that's where I found James. I took a course, I can't remember what he called it, but it was about leveraging the power of video and YouTube. And he said you should shoot a video every day for 30 days. Just shoot a video, get it on YouTube, just get it out there. Not for the content, but just to practice and figure this stuff out and do these things, okay? So, as Jim Rohn famously said, we set goals not for the achievement of the goals, but for the person that we become in the process of achieving those goals, right? A lot of times we have to change and adapt and become a different person to achieve them. So smartly, that's what James challenged us to. And so I was doing it. And I had a full-time job at the time, had some side hustles going, but I was doing the challenge, was a few days into it, and happened to be at home for lunch. I worked from home at the time, but I would go out and call on customers in the local area. And I happened to be home for lunch, and I was eating a sandwich with some chips, and then it dawned on me that I had not done my video for the day. And I started thinking about the rest of my day, and it was very busy, and I had all kinds of other things going on after work, and the kids had school activities and sports activities and marching band activities and all this jazz. So I was like, oof, I'm not going to have time to do this later. We better do this now. So I took out my flip cam because at the time, video was not something you did on your phone. We had a separate device. That's how old I am. We had a separate device called a flip cam, which was basically just a little pocket-sized video camera that could shoot like 5-minute videos or something like that. And all it had was a big red button on the front. So I put that on a tripod, put it on the table, pushed the red button on the front, and I proceeded to show people how two things that I do with chips, with chip bags. One was how to fold the bag up in such a way that it would like stand on its own, so you wouldn't have to get out a serving bowl. You could just fold it a certain way, put it on the table, and then people could access the chips very easily, and it would stand up there. And part of this was because I have three boys, and they're always doing crazy things, and so putting out serving bowls whenever is just a huge waste of time because they're going to make a mess. So I was trying to show people a life hack. But the one that really resonated with people was the second one, where I showed people how to seal a chip bag without using chip clips. So just a couple folds. I showed people how to do that. And I'll share the original YouTube video with you in the show notes. And I'll also share the other video that I'm going to tell you about in a second. You'll be able to find those in the show notes as well. So anyway, I posted this video, I don't know, it was 4 or 5 minutes, put it on YouTube. Didn't think anything of it. It got like 10, 20, 30, 100 views, something like that. A couple of weeks went by, and then I checked my stats again, and it had a few tens of thousands of views, like 30,000, 40,000, somewhere in there. It's because a website called Lifehacker had picked it up, and they shared it on their site. And I was like, oh, cool. So I kind of assumed that was my 15 minutes of fame. There it was, me doing something very silly, but whatever. No one would have heard about it if I hadn't have shared it. They wouldn't have heard about me. They wouldn't have seen this thing. And so I took my 15 minutes in stride, got some emails and some social media hits for it, and, had a new following of people. And then it kind of faded away. I didn't think anything of it. And then about 4 years ago, I got a message on my Facebook business page from somebody who is purporting to be a producer at Good Morning America. For those of you not in the United States, Good Morning America is a nationally televised morning show on one of the big networks here in the United States, ABC. And they wanted me to come in live into Times Square, where their studios are in New York City, and demonstrate these chip bag techniques. Yes, they invited me to go on national TV to do this. And so I did. And I'll share the video again in the show notes so you could see how ridiculous it was. They sent a Lincoln Town car to my house at 4 o'clock in the morning because I live not far from New York City. They came and picked me up, drove me in, went in the green room, met all kinds of people, had a chance to meet Ashley Graham and a bunch of other celebrities that were on that day. And then I went on live TV to show people how to fold chip bags. And so I share this story with you because if I had never done that YouTube video, if I'd never gone through the process of learning how to do that, that thing never would have happened. And for people that are wondering, like, why would you say yes to that request? Because that's probably not within your branding. And there's a lot of people that said, oh, but aren't you a leadership trainer and coach, and won't that water down your branding? I'm like, listen, y'all, stop taking yourself so seriously. I am going to get an opportunity to go on national television doing something that is low risk, something that's pretty funny, and it will help me get my first experience doing live national television so that when I am on live national television again in the future, it will not have been my first time. I will have had that experience. I will know what to expect. And then when it's something that's more powerful or something for my business or something I'm trying to achieve to make a bigger impact, I'll be much better prepared to do that. So none of that could have happened if I said to myself, doesn't everyone know this? This is so dumb. I should never share this. I shared it, and years later, I ended up on Good Morning America. Now, is that going to happen for you? Probably not. And did that help me a whole lot in my business? Probably not. Although I am one of the few legitimate people that could say something like, as seen on Good Morning America, which lots of people do in their branding, but I'm not so sure they were actually ever seen on Good Morning America. And so I share that story with you because there are things as simple as that you could be sharing with the world. And now we have all of these tools at our disposal, podcasts, videos, all of these things to share with the world. And frankly, going through that exercise got me comfortable in doing a podcast like this. Like, I didn't think about what I was going to talk about today other than in the shower this morning. I'm like, we're going to do an episode on the curse of knowledge. And I came down here and I turned this microphone on because I've had practice, because I've had the repetitions, because I've been doing Facebook Lives, I've been doing those things. And so those of you that are in this space of, man, I don't want to share that, I shouldn't share that, that's dumb, doesn't everybody know that? I would encourage you to start sharing. Share it on Facebook. Many of you probably don't even have a ton of followers anyway. So just share it. Get in the habit of putting it out there. Go through the process of learning how to do these things, because I can tell you this, as things evolve, as technology evolves, we're about to have a huge convergence of major technologies that are going to change things in this world faster than ever before. If you want to read up on it, there's a great book I just finished by Peter Diamandis and Stephen Kotler. It's called The Future is Faster Than You Think. But all of these things are going to change, and you are going to be a free agent, meaning you are going to have to learn how to articulate the value that you bring to the world through very different channels than we do now. And if you can't figure out how to share this stuff, if you can't figure out how to leverage your knowledge, if you can't figure out how to unleash your awesome on the world, thus the name of this podcast, then you're going to be in a really tough spot. You are going to be at the whim of everybody else who is figuring this stuff out. So I'm here to help. That's why you're listening to this podcast. If you know other people that need to hear this podcast and these kind of messages, please share this with a friend. This is being syndicated on almost all of the major podcast carriers. And so wherever you're listening to it, feel free to use the share functionality and share it on your own social media, get people to come join us. Because as I'm helping you unleash your awesome and get over this thing we call the curse of knowledge, I want to be able to help other people as well. Probably people that you know, people that you love, could use a little pep talk and some knowledge like this. So feel free to share this with those folks. And make sure you join me for our next episode, where I'm going to talk about another psychological thing we need to concern ourselves with and get over and then leverage, called the confidence competence loop. So until next time, go out and unleash your awesome on the world. See ya.
Thanks for listening to Unleash the Awesome. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to your podcasts. And please share us on your favorite social media platforms using #UnleashAwesome.